Hello, my name is Isaac E. I'm a HPTC staff member at York University based. Um, Welcome to Introduction to Python seminar today. Um, Basically, what I'm going to present today is general stuff about the Python. And also, I think I try to, make some materials to a newbie for this kind of programming. So this kind of general interest seminar would be good for the person who never programmed before, and also it's good for the person who actually programmed with the different languages. So outlines. I'm going to present a couple of main topics here. What is the Python? And what's the version I need to choose? And how are you going to use the Python in Sharcnet? And also I'm going to briefly mention how we're going to use Python in the PC. And I'm going to show some simple practice about the arithmetic operations. And I'm going to introduce a couple of data structures for the Python language. And I'll also show some examples to handling the data and then getting some mean and maximum or those kind of things to the array database. And then I'm going to introduce a couple of libraries which are very useful in using this kind of Python. Python. This is actually a very interesting thing. I haven't programmed Python for a long time, but Python actually drew my attention 1-2 years ago. It's open source, general purpose, high-level programming language. High-level programming language means the programming language is very, comfortable to the person. So it's open source, so it's basically free. And also, this Python has to be run using the interpreter. Some people probably don't have an idea about what's the interpreter, what's the compiler. Compiler is kind of doing some more functions on the source code and making some binary, and it's going to be executed. It's going to run on the CPU. The interpreter language is pretty much like HTML or sometimes a shell. Those kind of programming type is you're going to write down all the syntax, all the things, and the interpreter solely doing some interpretation and then doing it. So in general, Python, this kind of interpreted language, is slower than the compiled version of languages like C or C++ or Fortran. But I'm going to show you later in our YouTube channel, our another HPTC staff at Waterloo, Paul, actually he did a really good job about the parallelization with the Python. So you can speed up your scientific simulation or calculation using NumPy, all the things combined with the Python. So Python definitely is an interpreter language, which means you need an interpreter instead of a compiler. Okay. Third one is very important. Python is almost all object-oriented programming and procedural and functional, and also it's very easy to interface or easy to combine with other languages. And Python is simple, but has a lot of advantages, such as automatic memory management. It's always good, right? So whenever you program C++, it's always a headache to hold the memory and release the memory. Those kind of things are very difficult. But for the Python, it's quite simple. And the most interesting part I got, at least for me, it has a lot of third-party libraries like a NumPy, SciPy, and SymPy. I'm going to introduce these three later, though. It will make us to handle all the data or mathematical calculations so easy. Python is, community is growing a lot. I mean, see the list right now who actually involved this kind of webinar, which means you guys have interest about Python as well, right? So in these days, all world community actually want to program in a simple way. So Python is really good starting point to do some simple jobs. So sometimes, like a scientist or engineers like me, we don't need to focus on programming itself. We just need to do some programming to get some result on our research. So Python is fairly good kind of starting point, entry-level programming language, to use. A lot of interesting feature already existed because it's object-oriented, which means you can use it all the features without writing all the code by yourself, right? So Python is very popular one. I strongly recommend you to think about the Python to do your work. you know, before you considering to program everything with a C or Fortran or Java, whatever it is. Okay, if you type the Python in a Google, you can easily see there are many different versions available. I'm talking about a Python interpreter right now. Basically, even Sharcnet offers 2 different versions as well. So 2 different versions, mainly starting with the 2 point something or 3 point something. There are not much difference exists, at least for the beginners like us. So, however, there are a little bit differences. 2.x actually released late 2000, and then it has lots of web resources because it's been old, right? And then it has lots of third-party libraries. It's all well set up. However, 2.x actually has some limitation in handling floating point, some expressions a little bit tedious than 3 point something. So in these days, the community actually trying to move on to the newer feature with 3.x. It's faster and neat. And in the future, all modules, libraries will be moved to the 3.x version. So, if you have first time to this kind of Python, it doesn't really matter. But if you think about program something very heavy way in Python, you may think about to move to 3.x in near future. So as I mentioned in a note here, you could use either version depending on your goal. However, it's okay for the most Python beginners like us to stay with the 2.7 point something version, which is available in our Sharcnet machine. And then how we're going to call the interpreter in a Sharcnet is simply showed here. As you probably know, Sharcnet offers software module, right? So we also have lots of modules about Python available. So if you check the module available Python, you can see there are different versions of Python and according to the different compilers. If you're going to use the GCC, you have to use the Python GCC some version. And if you're using the Intel, you have to use Python Intel certain version. So as I showed you here, I'm going to module load Python Intel 2.7.8, which has lots of features already. And then once it's loaded successfully, I try to find where's the Python. We're going to use this line later, this part, because when we code, sometimes we need to put where is the interpreter located at the first line. So we're going to use this one. If you look at any other material in the website, they usually has /usr/bin and Python, but that's for the general Unix machines. For the Sharcnet, especially you have such a module like that, you have to do this one. Especially if you do just the /usr/bin and Python, in our Sharcnet machine we have 2.6 point something. So it's not 2.7.8 in default location. So you have to make sure what kind of compiler version you're using it. You can check the version quickly by typing Python like this. You can see that. Okay. First thing you probably notice is all the red kind of characters I emphasized here is the command line. So here and after, you can see all the red. That's all command you're going to type in. And then this Python command actually bring up the interpreter. You can see here Python version 2.7.8, and then blah 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 GCC blah blah blah. It's been available, and then show that. Okay. However, to be honest, Python is not quite. Sorry, let me say in this way. Python hasn't been that popular in HPC. I mean, high performance computing. Because Python, as I mentioned, is just slower than the compiled version of computer languages. However, in these days, as I mentioned, there are many good features, and it's very easy to combine with NumPy as well. So in these days, Python is also popular in HPC area. However, still, you want to use Python on your PC instead of Sharcnet machines. I'm going to explain later, but Sharcnet machines for the computing only. So, which means Python module available in Sharcnet machines actually has a lack of graphic supporting. So sometimes you want to do some data processing, all the things on your computer to see the graphical kind of result of all the things. So as I mentioned here, you can download proper version based on your operating system. However, if you're using Mac, I'm going to show my Mac though later, or Linux machines, yeah, you don't need to worry about it. It's already built in as a default. Or you may want to, get some kind of different distribution about the Python, which means Anaconda I mentioned here actually has a Python core itself, and then it has another features together. And there are many things, IPython and Jupyter, those kind of projects as well. But Anaconda is one of the famous ones. You can download it, and Anaconda has many libraries plus core things like a Linux distribution. So we have Ubuntu and CentOS, those Red Hat, those kind of things. Actually, sharing the kernels, it has a different features, right? It's the same idea. So Anaconda is another one. You can install it by downloading on that website. I just want to mention what kind of working environment you have to use. Usually for the C or C++ or Fortran, not Fortran in these days, but Java, we're using the IDE, right? Integrated developing environment or something like that. But Sharcnet side, we only offer the terminal, right? So you have to know how to use text editor. You have to know how to save the data. You have to know how to move your location, all the things based on Linux or Unix menu. So again, if you're using the terminal, and then if you want to write down something, sometimes you want to know what's the text editor. Nano is the text editor, which is very how can I say that? Similar to our just general text editor. Okay, I'm more like a VI person. VI is another text editor, but it's very old version. So in these days, you better use Nano editor, or you can edit your text in your computer. You can just simply transfer to our server. So it doesn't matter. But I just showed here Nano kind of window, for example. But here and after, I'm going to show you terminal. I'm going to use some basic kind of environment instead of any fancy IDEs or IPython kind of environment. Okay. Basically, there are two ways to run Python. Okay. One is using the interactive interface. The other thing is you're going to write down the code like a file, and like a text, and then you're going to save the text into the file, and you're going to run that file. I'm going to show it using the demonstration later, though. But interactive interface mode, okay, can be called by simply, as you see, again, red one is command line, Python. And then your shell, this is the shell, actually will be changed into the Python mode also. So whenever you see this kind of triple angle bracket, yeah, you probably know, okay, I'm ready to do something in Python. Okay, so as you see, I did some simple operation, 2 plus 3. Oh, it gives me 5. It's wonderful, right? So Python knows how to add. And then I give, does it work like a C? Print and bracket. It's a little bit different from C, but similar to C, right? And then hello world. Yeah, hello world. Yes, I got it, right? Surprisingly, Python is pretty much like a C. So all the commands, all the things is pretty much C. It's quite similar. And if you want to get out of this one, you can do quit and some there's a void return, or you can do simply Control D here, as I mentioned. Control D or quit something. I think Control D is way faster than typing quit, with the void return. Okay, you can see that, right? And then there's another way, as I mentioned, we're gonna run the script. Okay, so I showed you here test.py. So usually py is common extension for the Python code. So you can write down anything. It doesn't really matter to be in general. But it's always good to keep the same extension for certain types of programming, right? So like a C++, you may want to keep the extension as a CPP. For C, you may want to keep it as a C. Fortran, maybe F4, F90, those kind of way. So I typed 2 plus 3 and print the same thing in 2 lines. and then I did it this way. I'm gonna explain this one more carefully because a lot of people has trouble. And I'm assuming you guys are newbies to Python. If you probably know this one. Python is command, right? So, which means if I type Python and test.py, which means I want to interpret test.py using Python command. Okay, so Python will be working as interpreter to understand or to do something on the test.py. This is one way, but I don't recommend this way too much, all right? Because you have to type the file name all the time. Or if you know the Linux or Unix a little bit more, okay, you probably put this line at the beginning. If you are quite used to shell programming, we did the same thing. Shop and the symbol and slash bash or USR bash or those kind of bash boom one again shell interpreter. So we express here what kind of interpreter will be used to understand the next lines. Okay, so it's always good to put this kind of line. But as I mentioned, if you look at general Python tutorial, they usually say /USR /bin /Python. But again, in Sharcnet, you loaded module and then you have to put this right place to use a right module kind of binary. So it's the same thing. And the second thing you probably need to do is, okay, here, the ch mode, you change the mode to 777, tested py. If you're not quite sure about the permission, 777 means giving all the permission on this file, which means this file can be run and read and can be modified or something like that. And then you run it in this way and you will get the answer. Both are same. So if you're not quite sure about these Unix command or Linux commands, it's always good to use this one. Okay, just Python and text, the file name. Either way is fine. So I did some simple math practice, all the things as I show you, this kind of cat means showing all the contents within this text file or binary file. Binary file doesn't work though. And I assigned a value 55. It's pretty much like a common language. And print a, I just want to see what's a. And double, I just doubled here. One thing you have to be careful is 55 is the integer, right? And then if you do this way, you actually changing, converting to the float. Okay, integer means integer, floating means it's floating with the real numbers, all the things. So you doubled the a number, but it changed simply to the floating. And then b is assigned the similar way, 2 times a and the b. And a is reassigned to the another value, which actually doesn't change this line, right? Why? Now a is 100, so when b is calculated, a is only 55. Therefore, if you run the code, b still have 110 based on the 55 of a value, but a value is changed. So you probably know that. Unless we're going to use pointer idea, there's no way to change it in this kind of procedure. But it's a simple way. Again, a couple of things you may want to know is here is data type conversion, and then also reassigning. Okay, and then using some quote, to show some strings. Okay, and then you see the procedures. Procedural kind of running. So the interpreter actually go through from the line 1 to the line end. So it goes this kind of smooth way. There are a couple of data structures, lists. Let me show you first. Strings, tuples, and dictionaries. Those kind of things are very, very useful kind of data structures in Python. So let us go through, a couple of important points. Lists is pretty much like an array, but it can be, anything. Which means writing a list of comma separated values, CSV, in square brackets. which might have different types, which means individual item can have different types, like integer, string, or character, or something like that. And then for most of the case, we give all the things. Yeah, that's general purpose. You can see here, as 1, 3, 5, 7. So I assigned as list data type with the 4 members or 4 items, right? So I tried to print it out first and last. So it looks like pretty much a C, right? C is starting from array 0. It's the same thing. So it looks as 3, but which means the last one, right? Because we have 4 items. So 0, 1, 2, 3, what I'm saying. So 3 means 7. So first and last, I got this 1 and 7 as a result. And then print first and last, 0 and interesting. C doesn't have this one as far as I know, and -1 and -2, which means since 1, the item number 1 or value 1 is stored into the 0, -1 means the before the 1 and automatically goes back to the last one. So the -1 means the last one. Okay, and -2 here means second last one. You can see that, right? It's very, very convenient. So you can easily express, the list members in different ways. So you can see the 175. Let me explain this one using some demonstration. Sorry for using Mac instead of our Sharcnet terminal, because I need to show you some plot. So that's why I'm sticking with my PC, because Sharcnet module, as I mentioned, does not provide any visual effect in Python, so you can actually show that quickly. All right. So if I type Python, well, this one has a little bit different version. You can see, right? But it's the same thing. What I did is actually as is as a list, right? 1, 2, 4, 5, 7. And then what I did is print. You don't need to use bracket. You can simply do this way as well. Anyway, what I did is actually as append, okay, option. If you type in this way, it looks weird, okay? So if you do dir, is okay, as, it actually show you what kind of objects you can use, right? Which means, as is kind of a big class or big module, and this one actually has many different, even the underscore means private, functionality, and then this is public functionality. You don't need to know that at this moment anyway. This kind of, options available, which means you can do, as I showed you. And let me explain this one. I want to use append, right? So you need to know what's going on and what is that, right? So you can probably do help, okay, as, and append. Okay, all objects actually has to be called using the dot, like a plus plus. Oops. I spelled it wrong, sorry. It's out. Yeah, you can see that. So this help will give you the idea, oh, this one is, add something to the end of the variable, which means what I want to do, okay, as append, okay, I'm going to put like a 9. All right, and then if I print, why I keep writing double? You can see that 9 is another member right now. Okay, this is the way working. So remember, dir will show you all the possible kind of objects for those kind of options, and then help is another way to get how to use. This is very interesting stuff, like even you can do like even hello string object, right? And what kind of options you can use, right? You can see many interesting features available. If I wanna just test it with a swap case, which means you probably want to do like a hello and swap. Oops, so print. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Sometimes you need, well, do this one. Yeah, again, you have to give some in this case return function. Anyway, so swap case actually change all the uppercase and lowercase opposite way, right? So this is another way. It's a very interesting because the one string is regarded as one object, right? And then it's actually has some components among those kind of string members. Interesting, right? So this is a really nice feature. So again, you can add some number, and you can see I used the reverse functionality, and then I got the reverse order, and then also you can do some string as members, Isaac, Paul, and Bob, and names. You can call the names using print as well. And here I actually reassign the member value from like Paul to Paul is in the pronunciation, but anyway, I just want to change second one because one means second one, right? So I want to change that, and then you can easily see, it's been changed, right? It's been changed here. And also, you can call all members, or sometimes you probably restrict the ranges from 0 to 2 means starting from 0 and less than 2. So which means because we have Isaac, Paul, now it's a different Paul, and Bob, which means 0, 1, and 1, and it's less than 2. So Bob is not showing up in this kind of last sentence. Strings, everybody has very, I believe, good sense about the strings. One thing I want to say is, if you set up a variable or assign a variable for a string, and then each kind of character will go into in this kind of way. So 3 means 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So the second last L will show up here. It looks like an array. So it's very, very convenient and easy. You don't need to assign how much, array size, how you're going to handle those kind of memory. You don't need to worry about. Okay. And also, you may want to reassign the member within the strings, but it's immutable, which means, as you mentioned, immutable, which means you can't change it. So we cannot reassign another thing, which means I cannot change the second last L to the number 8. I can do that. And lang is another command to check the size of the kind of array or size of the string. And then you can do simply adding strings by strings easily. And then here is the interesting stuff. Is a 3 single quote. Okay, 3 single quotes can go over lines. If you have very, very long lines, and you can do that, some space and everything together. So you can see the greetings. One is assigned with multiple lines by separated, and then you can see multiple lines comes up as it is. Tuples also possible. Is another one is represented by a number of CVS, comma separated value format. It's immutable, which means you can reassign thing. And as you see, interesting feature is here. Okay, simple bracket or parenthesis actually works as a tuples. It's kind of nasty, the one. So you can see here sign name here in the fourth line. What I'm saying, sign in name is assigned with a plus sign and plus name. Okay. You don't need to do this kind of this way. You can simply assign this one to here, but I just show you a different way. And then print it out same way. And then you can simply change that. But as you see here, okay, pair actually has plus and plus. Where is that? Plus sign and plus word. And if I want to change this one with the minus string, it's not gonna be done because it's immutable. You can't change that. Like just change it. As you probably remember, list is possible, right? In the list, yes, but tuples, it's not possible. A dictionary is I believe, very useful for someone actually handling with a text or ASCII type of data, because you can use some key extensions I mentioned here. Is Isaac is 1000, like a phone extension. Isaac is 1000, Tom is 2000, blah blah blah, and then I just want to know what's the value of the key. In this case, is key is Isaac, right? By typing what's the value of that Isaac key is something like this. So I reassign with the 5000, right? So it's immutable. So I can change now. Isaac's extension has been changed to the 5000, right? So, and sometimes you want to see what's the keys. It's the same thing, C dot and keys, which means you call another object member working as a function. Like I want to just see the keys within this kind of dictionary data, or dictionary, data, I'll say. So Isaac, Mike, Josh, and Tom. You can always check what's possible using dir. Okay, that's one of the things you probably know. And then dictionary structure is defined with a bracelet, okay, or a curly bracket. So different data types actually has different kind of wrapping. List has a square bracket, string has a quote, and tuple has a parenthesis, and dictionary has curly braces or curly bracket. You can see that, right? So each one has a slightly different features, and some of them are mutable, some of them are actually immutable. So you have to know which one is what. Okay, here's another practice. We want to load one large data, which is two-dimensional format, like as I showed you here, this way. I'm not sure how many people know about the software carpentry. Software carpentry is one of the organizations to promote the basic stuff to engineers and scientists in computer languages or computer handling. So I took some example from the software carpentry lessons, because I'm one of the software carpentry instructor as well. So what we want to do, we want to load big data into the memory, and we want to do some calculation based on this kind of data. And it looks like a very tedious and long enough, so we have to know how to sort it out, how to save it, how to handle it, right? And then at the end, probably we want to do some plotting. So we're going to do this kind of practice right now. And I'll explain later NumPy. NumPy is another third-party library, so you have to call it. And in Python, we use import. I'm going to explain how to import many libraries, two different ways. But in this case, let's say just accept it. Using the NumPy, okay, NumPy has a member object like a load txt text. But file name has to be in this way. It looks kind of readable, right? And the delimiter, which means how the data is separated, right? So I can easily say, oh yeah, it's been separated by comma, right? Default is white space or space, one time space bar. In this case, it's separated by comma, right? So I said, okay, delimiter is comma. So whenever you see the comma, think about, new item comes up. And then NumPy is very good for handling data in array. So by loading this kind of data in this way, you will get the kind of 2x2, not 2x2. So what I'm saying is two-dimensional arrays in here. So as is here, NumPy stands for numerical Python, and powerful blah 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 for the algebra something. And then you can get some help always. Same thing, NumPy.load txt, and then you will get many different options are possible here. And then here I use the file name and the delimiter. Right? And sometimes you probably need to skip rows because first 2 lines, 3 lines have been used for general purpose of comments, right? So you can simply jump those kind of things and other things. There are many features. NumPy is very useful. Anyway, the important point is we got the matrix, like a big matrix in this case, using all the numbers. Here is an example I showed you here. So again, import NumPy. I use the NumPy load txt. Okay, so all the data will be saved into the data variable array. Okay, so I just want to check what's the size of the two-dimensional array, right? So you want to do this way. Data dot shape. Again, you can do dir and bracket data will give you what kind of options you can see, right? 60 and 40, which means you have 60 rows and 40 columns, right? So it's common description about the matrix. So 60 rows and 40 vertically, 40 columns. So I just, do some, very, very naive thing. Oh, can you find what's the maximum value among the data array? Ah, I got 20. What's the minimum? Looks like a 0. What's the mean among all the items? I can easily print it out in this way. You can see that, right? Very, very useful and simple. Data actually, we called all the ASCII into actually have some NumPy and data array type, and it's floating point to 64 double precision thing, and then we have first value looks like our mathematics, right? 0, 0 here, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 40, 40, 0, sorry, 60, 0, and 60, 40, those kind of way. The middle value goes to 30 rows and 20, something like that. We can get the value there. So you can use many C-type kind of approaching. And you can slice the data like this. So from 0 to 4, but again, starting from 0, okay, less than 4, which means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 rows starting from 0, and we have 0 to 10, which means 0 to 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, I have this kind of slicing. Same thing, you can see that you can omit 0, doesn't matter. Even you can use only you can only use column, which means 0 to 0, right? Something like that. Anyway, and you can do some algebra by multiplying the matrix by 2, and you can calculate what's the trace of the matrix. You can easily do the transpose again. Interesting, right? So transpose ij is a transpose to the ji. So you can see 3 by 4 becomes 4 by 3 in this case. You can do many interesting mathematical skills here using NumPy idea. Okay. At this moment, what we want to do, we want to calculate a couple of maximum and minimum or those kind of stuff. Okay. So let's say I got the first row, 0 is the first row, and all the columns, which means, let's say here, patient 0, I don't know if you can see here. If you look at the figure on the left side, patient 0, actually, I want to do, that's a first row. Okay, first row. So first row actually has a 40 columns, right? So we want to calculate what's the maximum value, which means I can say daily maximum. So maximum inflammation for the patient 0 is, if I calculate it, is 18. Somewhere here I got 18 along this kind of patient 0 first row. Okay. Patient 3, we can do same thing. Okay, 0, 1, 2. This is patient 3, which means actually, sorry, fourth. I do this kind of way, same thing. The maximum. You can see the maximum values. I got the maximum from the data. And also you can do mean along the axis 0. Axis 0 means you do this one in this kind of direction. Because my data is 60 rows and 40 columns. If you calculate all the values vertically, you will get 40 vertical values, right? So that's why if you check the shape of the mean by defining axis as 0, which means you got 40, 0 as a vector, a single vector, right? So it's kind of, again, axis 0 means vertically, this direction. So as is showed here at the on the right hand side of the figure, so you have a 40 days, which means I have a 40 comma 1 vector, kind of strip vector. And then you can do the same thing for the axis 1. Axis 1 is horizontally. So axis 1 means you're gonna, if you calculate something horizontally, we do have 60 rows, right? Therefore, we're gonna have 60 comma 1 as our vector strip. Yeah. So the main point is you can specify the axis instead of giving the data range. Okay, that's very convenient. You can simply calculate many things following the direction. Plotting the image, I'm going to explain a little bit more later, but you need to have this kind of library, matplotlib and plot by Python plot, and then you're going to save the image show into the image and then say, oh, show me or something like that. And you can also ask to calculate the mean value along the x-axis, axis 0 vertically, and then you can simply plot it. I'm just showing you. You don't need to know what's going on here at this moment. So this one is a 60 and 40, 60 rows and 40, and then this is a full data set. This is a certain mean value along the x-axis. So that's why we got from 0 to 40 items, because we calculated a vertical kind of calculations here for mean. For loop, definitely we need it, right? Because we don't need to do it the same thing again and again. So simple thing is this, it's pretty much like a shell. So you have 4, and this is the kind of iterating kind of index, and in means this kind of range word, 4 characters, right? 4 characters you're gonna print out, so one by one. At that time, let me emphasize here, from this kind of 3 dots to print command, we have indent. Okay, this is indent, not the white space. So you have to use tab, right? You have to punch the tab to get the indent. That's the format for the 4. And also be careful with the colon, okay, which means for loop is not done in this line. You will have something more. Okay, same idea here. Okay, you have an indent. Okay, and then waiting for another line. If you enter it, just done. And then checking the length, all the things. You probably noticed what's the addition, all the things. Range is a simple command in Python, basic functionality. 0 to 10 means they're going to list up one by one from 0 to until 10, which means not including 10. And then you can do this way, right? Making some list from 0 to 9, and then you're going to change the index num, right? And then curly brace, which means like a percent to C or percent to B, something like that in C. So this, let me do that. This curly brace 0 is calling with a num, and this curly brace 1 is calling with a second argument here. And format is another objects in string data type. So you can see that by changing the number, okay, it shows the squares of each of the members. Multiple files, it's easy to handle it. There is one functionality, Grove. Okay, Grove actually shows you, sometimes what kind of data files you have in your directory. And the NumPy, actually using the NumPy, you can sometimes sort file names. By assigning this kind of Grove kind of functionality, file names will have 4 different members. So file names, as I showed you, 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you assign what's the file name into this data list, then we can use it as a for loop. That's why global library contains a function which finds files in directory. This is very, very useful. You can use this kind of asterisk too for random, as you see, all the repeated part. You can use that. This is very, very useful too. As I showed you, file names has a 4 list from data 01 to 004. So using 4, F is repeated, so every single time. showing what kind of data set, and calculate, load the data and calculate the mean along the two different axes and show the answers. See, data 1 actually show the array because I mentioned show because this mean will have some 40 comma 0 style of vector, and axis 1 has a 60 comma 1 type of thing. You can see that this is first set in the file name, this is the second set, this is the third and fourth, and so forth. Alright, if statement, it's easy. Let me briefly mention it. You need to have a semicolon because, you need to have a colon because you need to do some action about this kind of if-else statement. That's why if has a colon, else has a colon. Sometimes you want to have one more branch, so elif has a colon. You can see that. And then same thing, you have to have an indent here. Okay, indent means okay, it's just following the format. So this is the action for the first condition. This is the action for the second condition, something like that. So everything else is very similar. Yep, let me skip this. Defining function is way easier. I forgot to make a right selection. def is setting up the function. So you're gonna define a function as power a comma b, and return just a is a base, b is the exponent. I'm gonna do the a star star again. Star star is the exponent, and b. So if you do power 2 comma 3, it will give you 8. So you can set the function very easily and quickly. Memory will remember what's the function of that if you use this kind of interpreter. As I mentioned, the libraries can be loaded two different ways. You can use import math here, or you can use from math import something, which means import math is you're gonna just get the how can I say that, the math module or math library. So whenever you want to use the member within that library, you have to use this kind of object-oriented calling, like a dot, a cosine dot, something like that. Okay. So that's why if you do the pi, assuming you got 3.14, it's not going to give you any value. However, if you do the from math library, import everything, means import all the namespace within the math, which means that namespace will be available without this math dot calling. So you can simply call the pi. This was available for math library. You can easily use that. So if you want to use many kind of cosine or sine a lot, I strongly recommend you to import all the namespace. But some tutorial said you better not to, because sometimes you don't know where it comes from, right? So it's always good to think about it. I will show you later. You can rename this one to the simple one. So be careful about using this kind of two different ways to use the libraries. Again, as I mentioned, same thing here. Import math as m, which means you don't need to write down math.py every single time. You can simply say m.py, something like that. Okay, TII I already mentioned. NumPy, we've been using this one. It's really good, and NumPy is also good for the some unknown algebra or some manipulation with it, x and y. You can see that here. I kind of from NumPy library, I imported the poly 1D kind of interpolation or something like that. So poly 1, 3, 4, 5, which means 3x squared, 4x plus 5, like a symbolic complement, right? So if I do p is assigned with a poly 1D, polynomial 1D or something like that, and then you get p times p, you get 9x4 quartic and cubic, blah blah blah, and then you can do integration using 6 points or something like that rules, and then you can do the even derivative. But this is not quite popular in using NumPy. NumPy is more likely about the array. I'm going to show you this one later. Matplotlib is kind of sketching the graph, all the things. Plotting the graph. So NumPy is for the mathematical. So this one is, again, is a renaming. You can see, let's say this is alias. And then some mathematical setup and all the things. You can see that. The image is very nice. Good thing is you can use latex. Okay, so you can view and Sigma, you can see here. yeah, you can use LaTeX here. So if you preparing some plot for your thesis or something, it's very nice. It looks like I'm making one image. I'm gonna add on, add on, add on, add on. So it looks like image file is with X label, Y label, title, and access grid, and then finally show that. Okay, you can go through this one by yourself. I don't think there's a big problem. Okay, you can see nice and neat. It looks like a MATLAB. SciPy is another good thing. Oh, it's very, very important and useful. And then let me simply go through. You have to read SciPy, interpolate it, and import everything, NumPy, Matplotlib. You can see that, right? What kind of library I import it. And then arrange it. Okay? See this kind of functionality, interpolation, 1D. So even though we have only a couple of points, we can make a smooth lines based on this kind of interpolation using the cubic function. Okay, then we can have this kind of nice interpolated kind of curve as well. Again, make a one plot and add on and add on. The final thing I want to mention is SciPy. SciPy is very, very nice. I'm not sure how many people are quite used to Maple. Maple is simple in mathematics. Simple in mathematics is, it looks like we writing down all the equations like that. And so as you see, I'm going to set equation as x plus 2y. So x plus 2y here, right? If I add one more, it's going to be x plus 2y plus 1. I can subtract minus x, right? Which means I do have a from equal, not the equation, not plus 1. So we have 2y. So, and then by loading some more, features from SciPy, right? I can do expand. See, x times equation means x times x squared plus 2xy. And you can factor it back. Interesting, right? And then you can substitute some numbers for x and y to calculate what's the value. So MATLAB or sometimes Maple actually do this way. You can see here, they do the differentiation. Sine becomes cosine. And limit value, this is 0, infinity, you get 0, and integrate. Awesome. Solving the equation, solving the linear systems as a symbolic computing. This is very, very interesting feature. So again, I went through a little bit faster than the before for this kind of libraries, but remember math, NumPy, Matplotlib, SciPy, and SciPy. These are very, very useful libraries. You may have a look at it for your research. That if you use this kind of libraries usefully, I guess you don't need to write down very, very complicated C code or Fortran code at all. Okay, this is it. Thank you.